Hey folks, Roland Martin here, and today's video is the ABCs of throwing a big 10-foot cast net. There's a lot of little things, little tricks that I've watched a lot of videos and a lot of YouTube videos, and there's a lot of things people just haven't told you about. Okay, for one, the net itself. Let's just talk about the net. Let's just say, okay, a 10-foot net, first of all, is a big net. And it's capable of look at this, it's 10 foot in diameter or 10 foot long. It'll cover almost 20-foot radius. So that's a big net. Okay, now we're gonna probably be targeting golden shiners, and I'm gonna be doing some freshwater fishing. This is also a good net for big pilchards on the, for the snook and tarpon. And it's a great net. A 3/8 of an inch net is perfect. It's not a mullet net. It's not a glass minnow net. It's strictly for shiners, say 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 inches long. Okay, that's what it is. Now it has a 3/8 inch mesh. Now the 3/8 inch mesh means that it'll stretch out almost a ½ inch going one way, but 3/8 inch across. And that's the net size that I recommend the most. Okay, now a good quality net. I've been using Calusa nets for a long time, and Buster, who runs the company, he's so good. He just gives me every net I need, every size and every weight net. Let me just tell you about a size and weight. They make 4 foot, 5 foot, 6 foot nets, and they're small little cast nets that only spread out 7 or 8 feet. When you get into the 8-foot size, that spreads out to almost 16 foot. In reality, about 15 foot. And that's a really good bait net. Because see, what you have to realize is when you throw a small net on a little pot of bait, like here, and if it's only a couple feet to the edge, and it's only a 6-foot net that stretches this much in little pods here, the fish are going to run out from underneath it, particularly if the water's this deep. So I'm fishing mainly and throwing for the shiners in mainly water that's about this deep, 5 or 6 feet deep. So that means that if, say, a 30 or 40 shiners are all gathered around the chum, when I throw this net, I want the net size, the edges of the nets way out here far enough away so it sinks fast enough so that it keeps them to the center. Now this net does that. I'm going to explain this net. This net has a 1.5 pound per foot lead line. That means a 10-foot net weighs 15 pounds. And what that means, it's a fairly heavy net. When this comes down in the water, see out there, it's sinking pretty quick. And so if I hit here's the shiners in a little ball, or the bait, or the pilchard, or whatever you're trying to catch, and now the edge is out here 7 or 8 or 9 feet away and sinking pretty fast. As they swim away from that center, they see that thing sinking, they'll come back to the center again. So the bigger the net, the more it contains them, and the more they stay to the center. 12-foot nets are even better, but it's, again, a 12-foot net's heavier. A 12-foot net is more cumbersome. My hands aren't quite big enough to deal with a 12-foot net. And a lot of the other things to consider when you're throwing a 12-foot net is how big a hole do you have to throw in. Where I throw a lot of times is in little patches of hydrilla, and I'm trying to find a place that's, say, 20 foot across that's kind of open. Now I can chum the center, make a nice accurate throw with, say, this 10-foot net, and it's going to sink fast enough to catch almost all the shiners. Okay, so we've talked about a net, we've talked about a quality net, we've talked about the size of the net, and the fact that it sinks pretty fast. Let's talk about, before you throw the net, what has to happen. Now, if there's any buttons on your body, buttons always seem to really cause problems. I don't care what you do. A watch like this is not something you want to be casting with a cast net. You want to take your watches off. Okay, that's not something you'd ever leave on your wrist. Okay, that's one thing. Put that in my pocket. These sunglasses may or may not be good. I mean, they could kind of catch in the back, but just for the heck of it, I'm just going to take the sunglasses off, just because now there's nothing to catch on my body. There's no buttons. The belt buckle's pretty smooth. The net's not going to catch. Okay. I've been catching bait for 40 years. I've been throwing a cast net for 40 years, and there's about 10 different ways to throw a net. Okay, recently I've been throwing a 3-load net, and it's what almost all the YouTube video guys are going to right now. they're throwing this 3-load system. It's really working out good. It's the best way to throw a net. Well, first of all, before I throw the net, I want to talk about the wind for a second. There's a wind today, and these nets don't throw good into the wind. I can't throw them good into the wind. They don't open good into the wind. So what I'm going to try to always do when I find a place to throw the net, I'm going to get upwind. That's the first thing. So the wind right now is coming kind of from this direction. So I want to be throwing that way. Okay, that's the first consideration. Okay, now let's get the net ready to throw. Now that's a really, really big consideration. And these braille lines sometimes get caught. Now see, that's free. So to clear them, I'm going to take this braille line here. Okay, I'm going to come way out. Okay, that's open. Okay, again, that's open. Again, that's open. Okay, watch what I'm doing, because I'm clearing the net. I'm clearing the net. Oh, there was a little catch right there. It's open now. It's open now. It's open now. Okay, the whole net now is open. When I back away from it, the next consideration is all these lines that come together, they all have to be straight, and the net has to be untwisted. It can't be twisted. So right now, everything's straight and lined, okay? That's the first thing. Now, with the 3-load system, what I've done, I've kind of cut this rope a little short, and I've done it for 2 reasons. Number one, I'm throwing it in fairly shallow water, so I don't need a long rope. And secondly, it gives me more room in my hand to operate. If I have too much rope in my hand, I can't hold all the net good. Okay, let's talk about this end right here. Some people, you'll see them do this. Some people will take the net and they'll do this, one of these kind of numbers right like this. Okay, I don't do that. I'll tell you why. I was at Okeechobee a number of years ago, and I had this net tied to my wrist, and I was catching shiners for the marina, and I threw on an alligator by mistake, a big 10-foot alligator. It took off, and I had to hold on to the boat, and finally it tore loose of the net. It almost pulled me in the water and almost drowned me. At one time, it could be a manatee, it could be a great big stingray, it could be a shark, it could be the fact that you've thrown and your trolling motor's running, and all of a sudden the wind's drifting and the nets in the trolling motor is pulling you down in the water. The main engine could be running. You could be snagged on a rock, you could be snagged on a stump, you could be drifting. It can pull you out of the boat and drown you. So here's what the answer for this. Cast nets are not dangerous, particularly if you make a loop like this. Okay, see this big loop? That loop's so big, if something catches me, if something catches this net for any reason, it's only happened that one time with an alligator. It could happen again, I don't know, but I'm not going to take the chance. I'm going to have it over my wrist like this. If something grabs it, I can pull it right off. But see, the other way, if you had it like this, and to say the thing was all hooked to something strong, you can't get it loose. It's just you can't do it. It's pulling hard, and you're going to go in the water and possibly drown. So that's a big consideration, having that loop ready to pull off your hand. Okay, now I'm going to make loops like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, that's not a lot of line. Let's pull this here up to the top. Now this was all straight. I showed you how I straightened it out. And let me just hold that right here. Okay, I'm going to pull it again one more time and just show you. Now I'm going to make about a 2.5 foot first little bend right here. Now I don't want any of this rope hanging below the net. The second pull, or the second time I hold it, the second position is about waist high. So I'm going to hold it about waist high right here, and I'll come in with an open hand this way, like this, like that. Now none of these ropes are hanging below that thing. Now in the triple load, what I'm doing, I'm taking about 1/5 or 1/4 of the net, only about that much. That's about 1/5 or 1/4. And I'm going to take it and put it over my shoulder. And watch this, I'm going to take it under this arm and put it over this shoulder. Okay, that was step number 1. Let me do that again. On a triple load system, I'm taking about a fifth or a fourth of the net, pulling it out, loading it up in my hand. About that much net. Watch this now. I come under this arm and I come over this shoulder like that. Okay, that's the first step. The second step is I kind of go down low and I want to split the rest of this net. I want to split it up, half and half. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I want to take this leading edge that comes off of my shoulder and I want to get this part right here, okay? Okay, nice net here. Get it all balanced out. I'm ready to throw. I'm going to come back one time and look at that. That's perfect. That's what we're talking about, folks. That's a net and a half, son. That's a net and a half. You just have to practice. I made some other pretty good throws, but that one there is a better throw because I just happened to balance all the lead right. I got about 1/5 of it on the first part of it. Then I got a little bit more on the right than I did throwing out in front of me. You can see that this part here was what was over my shoulder. That's open good. That part there is what I threw out that was swinging. And this part here is what I was swinging to the right. All this was just a perfect pancake. Wow. Hey, that's throwing a net. Hey, listen, I hope this helped you out. I hope that you can use some of this information and some of the safety features that I've pointed out, talking about the size of the net, the safety factors of the net, the sink rates of the net, different sizes of the mesh. Anyway, by practicing that triple load, I think you'll find that I think it's the easiest way to cast a cast net, and you'll just have to practice. Nets cost about $100 to $150. Get yourself at least an 8-footer. Try to graduate into that 10-foot net, and you'll catch all the bait you'll ever need. Hey, thanks for watching. I hope I've helped you out on your cast netting techniques. We'll see you again soon. Thanks for watching.